welcome. I'm Mochi, and I'm the editor of Angry Apple. And if you don't know us, we're a team of two people. One does the beats and one does the edits. And of course, I do the edits. So today I'm going to show you how I work on my own personal edits as well as my process and what I look for, you know, that sort of stuff. So let's get into it. All right, so first thing you're going to do is pull up your video editor. And today I am using Final Cut Pro because I always use Final Cut Pro. It's my favorite video editor. It's the only one I've used, so. All right, so once you open it up, you can make a new file by pressing Command N. And for this purpose, I already made a file, but we're gonna call it Fig. And that's the title of the song we're using today. And then you go to Custom, and for Instagram, I like to go for 1080 by 1080 because that's the resolution proportions for it. But I already made one, so let's just go back into it. All right, so as we can see here, I have my audio as well as my video. Both of them are uncut still, so we're gonna find a loop together and find all the correct scenes for this together. So it's gonna be exciting. Okay, I'll do a separate video on where I get my video clips from because I feel like that's a different topic. So I think that part was a pretty good part to use as a loop. So what I'm looking for in audio is like interesting things such as like scales, trills, breaks, you know, anything that catches your ear and makes the edit a little more interesting. So we're gonna find the first note of that phrase, which is that dun. Perfect. So if you zoom up to the timeline here, you can see the waveform of the audio, and you see these peaks. Those are all like the, you know, the louder sounding ones, like the snares and the basses. So this is very important to me and most editors. So as you can see here, as I go over this one peak, it does like a little, you know, in your microphone or in your headphones. Sorry. So once you find that. And you can also see it on this green thing here. It'll tell you where the audio goes up right there. You're just going to go one frame right behind to give your brain time to process. And you can press Control B to cut the clip in half. And I'm just going to delete that beginning half because we don't need it. Alright, so once we found our end of the phrase, because that was like one, you know, melody, you know, then we find the end of it and find that little peak in the audio again, which is that little, you know, and then go one frame right behind it and we can cut it there. And if you want to check the loop, all you got to do is like Control, copy and paste, and we can check the loop. So that was a pretty good loop. I bet you didn't even notice. Perfect. So once you have that loop figured out, I like to keep both of the loops there just so I can find, well, you'll see. I'm going to use the video and make a cool loop out of it. Now that we got our audio cut already, all we got to do is cut the video. So I've already seen this movie. I kind of know what scenes I want to use. And this movie is called Fire and Ice. I believe it's like a 80s movie, you know. And it's got like some caveman in it and some hot chicks, so we love all of that. So what I'm gonna do is I had this particular scene in mind, this part where she's on the balcony, and I'm just gonna kind of like roughly cut it just to get like the basic scenes out of it. Either that scene or I was gonna use the scene where she meets this boy and they fall in love. Yeah, this part has really cool blues too, so I really enjoy that. Cool, let's get both of these scenes. And again, I'm just like roughly cutting around the scene I want to use. Don't want to use too much of this part because I actually use this for a different edit. So I want to use like different scenes. And if you haven't already, check us out on Instagram at angryapplelofa.com. Wait, not .com. check us out at Angry Apple Lo-Fi. After that, I just like to drag all my big chunks in here, and you can use the up and down arrow keys to find where you cut it, which is pretty handy dandy, I would say. So now we're gonna do a vibe check. So what I'm doing right now is making sure all the colors line up with the music, as well as, you know, the kind of scenery I would like to use. So just play it through, no cutting, no nothing. That looks pretty good. So I like the colors of the blue, but let's check this scene with like the panthers and stuff where she's getting like stolen. So editing is like a lot of like replaying and replaying and replaying till you get it right. Personally, I think I might go with this first scene that I chose, the one where like they're chasing each other, because I think that goes a little better with the story of the music. So now that we've picked our scene, or a big chunk of scenes, now we can get into cutting. And this is like the most boring part. I'm gonna look for a good loop in the footage itself. So a good loop to me is one scene that goes directly to the next, and it doesn't like cause too much strain on your eye. So if you have like one focal point that you want to focus on, just look for a scene that kind of flows into one another nicely. Like this to me would be a good, you know, a good loop. So we're gonna cut that out. I'm gonna get these two scenes and see how they loop together. And that's why we kept 2 of those audio clips. It's so we can check the loop at any time. So I wanna cut it right before it starts fading into the next scene. So I'm just gonna drag these 2 clips, and on this line here, let's see how they look together. Yeah, it looks good. And we're gonna make it smoother. So when I'm making a loop, first things first, gotta find the end beat. So it's definitely on this snare here is where I want this clip to start. So what you can do is you can select the audio clip here, and then once you find your snare, go 1 frame behind like usual, and mark it with the M key on your keyboard. Very handy tool, and you can use this marking tool on your video clips as well to mark out major actions and all that good stuff. So I want to find where this action ends. So right there's when that frame stops moving, and then I'm going to drag it over to the end here and maybe speed it up to like 120. When I'm speeding up clips, I like to keep it within 100% or 150%. Usually 120 is like a good starting point for testing out if your clips are speedy enough or too fast, you know. So yeah, that's a pretty natural thing. I think the most important thing with speeding up clips is that it has to look natural. So if you like speed up a really fast fighting clip, like you can't even see what's going on, that to me is not good. I like to see all of the actions in my scene so that it tells a good story. So once I've sped up that clip, we can check out this clip here. And if you notice, he talks a little bit, and that is something that we want to avoid. So I'm going to look through this, and maybe there's a scene where they both stop talking. Like here, maybe? Yeah, that's a good scene. And we want this scene to end on this first snare here. So what I'm going to do again is select the audio clip and mark that snare so I can find it later. And this is a handy tool because you can also drag your clips and it'll snap automatically to those markers that you put down, which is very good. You can also turn off the snapping with N and I don't really like that, so I keep it on. Perfect. So usually, as a rule of thumb, I like to keep the first clip of the video pretty short, because I want, you know, I know people have short attention spans, and so do I, so I have to kind of keep it fast paced at first, and then kind of get into the a little bit more of the feelings that I want to portray through this edit. So even this video clip might be too long, so we might have to end it on this first snare here, which is unfortunate. It's a really pretty scene, but you know, people get the gist of it. That's cute. So I'm just gonna trim it down, and voila, we have our first loop. All right, perfect. So one thing I noticed about this, and it's kind of bothering me, is that this one's on the left side here and this one's on the right side here. So I know they flipped the camera around, but I'm just gonna go to effects in this little library folder over here. You can also do transitions and close it, but the one I'm looking for is in effects. So I'm gonna type in flip, and you can find the flip tool. You can drag and drop, or you can like select it and then double click the effect to do that. And as you can see, it's a little smoother because they're both on the same side of the page, I guess. Your eye doesn't have to move too much. I think about where the eye moves and where my eye moves to when I'm looking through my edits, just to make sure that, you know, the points I want to emphasize are like in the shot. Now that that's done, we can get into the little bit more of a storytelling phase. And another thing you can do is just copy and paste that last frame and drag it to the back, just so you know how much space you have in between these two frames. And that's basically like your window. Just keep the last one short, keep the first frame short, and then you can get into whatever you want. But I think what I want to tell here is this little love story, you know, where they're, you know, kind of on edge at first. She runs away, blah, blah, blah. So these colors in this other scene are a little too different, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of crop it out. Of course, you can do different colors in your personal edits, but I like to keep mine, for the most part, uniform. I do play with color theory a lot, so if you haven't already, get yourself a color wheel. You can get a, like, you know, on Google Images. Really easy to find and a very useful tool. So
2 very boring minutes later.
Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so I think that is a pretty good transition too, because they're on the same side of the screen here, and it kind of looks like she lost her trust in him, so we're just gonna use that and cut it accordingly. Let's see how this looks. And I'm gonna cut it right before she turns around, like so. Perfect. So now we can take a look at it with the loop inside. Cool. So now we can get into a little bit more of the chasing scenes that we have a lot of, so that's good, that's good. We just needed a good lead up, you know? So we love a good booty moment, so let's go ahead and use these scenes here. Cool, a little Tarzan moment, that's cute. And, you know, the clips aren't going to be this long forever. And this is a pretty short edit, so. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but that was a pretty good transition. I think because they're in the same spot as they were before. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it so they're going the same way. Like so. Perfect. And you can kind of like use your arrow keys to, you know, look through it and make sure that it like flows correctly. And we're going to end it right before that. that still looks good. I was just checking, so. Perfect. Let's get into some scenes where they're like looking at each other or whatever. Maybe the scene where she's picking berries. Very good. Very, very good. Alright, so this dude runs up, looks at her ass. Cute, cute. Let's see. Yeah, I really like this scene. Her face looks cute there. So we're going to use these scenes in particular and see if we can like throw them in there. We're running out of room. We might have to like crop some of these a little more. What I like to call fine tuning. We could replace this one. So let's just see. And let's crop it at that snare there. Okay, let's check it over. Cute, cute. So let's get this dude running up and being all shook. We don't need too much of him, you know. We don't need too many men in our lives. All right, cool. And let's get this booty shot. Cute. So it's a little slow for me. I know she's like moving pretty small, but I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. A little too awkward, maybe a little slower, maybe from the beginning. I think they just animated it. So what we could do is take out some of these empty frames that don't have too much action in it. Like this. So I can just cut it in half and crop it maybe 2 frames over. Let's see how that looks. Okay, let's move these over because I do like her face at the end. So let's see what it looks like. Okay, that looks a little better. So as you can see, we filled up the entire timeline, including the loop. So let's check it over and see if anything flows weirdly or if anything could be better. Okay, so that's okay. Cute.
A few minutes later.
Well, we made an edit, so yay. Next step obviously is cropping. If you can't tell, it's still like wide frame up in here. So what we could do is crop it to the middle. I kind of want a bit of that moon in there. And cropping is where I get a little creative with like my cuts and stuff. If their characters are in the same position, it looks like it transitions pretty smoothly. And as you can see, once you crop it, it like completely changes the vibe, because when it's widescreen, you're really thinking about the actions and the story you want to tell. But when you crop it, some of the things don't really fit in the frame, so you have to get a little creative, maybe like switch out some shots. I've had to do that many a times, just switching out the shots because they don't fit in the cropping area. Yeah, so as you can see here, we want these 2 booties to line up together. And the way I do that is by using the magic finger. So basically what I do is I put a finger on the character that I want in the center. I wish you could see, but you know, I'm using my finger on my computer screen. So it gets a little dirty, but you know, that's okay. And then what you want to do is you want to crop it and then drag that character to where you think your finger would be on the screen. And basically, it looks pretty smooth, and you can do a little bit of fine tuning here. So maybe a little over to the right, I don't know. Yeah, that looks pretty smooth, so we can check it. Cool. So that way it doesn't strain your eye too much. You're just like, oh, cool transition. And crop this one again. Cropping that. Cropping that, because we split this one in two to get those empty frames out of the way. So, actually I already cropped this one, so I can just delete this last clip. Did I? Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. So Control C, Control V. Perfect. And now what we can do is delete this first clip and then drag, copy, paste. And now we can check the entire cropped loop. And this is pretty important, so. I think the only thing right now is that this frame here looks a little awkward. Maybe we can end it right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark that spot and drag this over, and it fits perfectly. Nice. Nice. So that is pretty good. Now we have to find another scene for them getting together, you know. Maybe right here. So she's a little slow here, so we can speed her up to like 120 again. And maybe drag her over a bit. Nice. Works for me, so. Again, what I'm looking for in like these videos is like actions, colors, vibes that I'm going for. Yeah, now that flows a little better, so. So I did notice that this clip felt a little bit slow, so I'm just gonna speed her up. Nice. So once you are finished with your edit, and this is just kind of like an easy one, you know, it's not too long, not too crazy, just a cute little love story and a little bit of booty. So what you can do on your keyboard is Command E, and that will export it. And what I like to do is go to settings and better quality for video codec and 1080 by 1080 for resolution, because we deserve 1080 by 1080. And then we can save it to our desktop or wherever you'd like. And then after this, I basically just email the file to myself, and I might do a little bit of editing on the phone just because of, you know, the black point scale. I'd like to increase that or make it a little sharper or fuck with the saturation a little bit. So alternatively, you could make your whole clip like a compound clip by dragging and then, you know, new compound clip if you would like, and then it'll merge it into one, and then you can, you know, mess with the saturation and exposure from there. But I don't really like to do that. So now that it is saved, we can just close it. And that's basically it. Thank you for joining me on this editing journey. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And I'm going to make a video about where I get my anime clips and animations from, and how to like torrent and download stuff for editing. So if you would like to learn a little bit more about editing and how I work, make sure to, you know, let me know in the comments. So thanks for joining me once again, and I hope you see y'all next time.